Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. I'm here to ask and answer one simple question. WTF is Dark Raid. Indie first-person shooter, sci-fi specifically, which always captures my interest because I feel like indie devs have this opportunity to create the kind of FPS that I used to enjoy a long time ago, and they can get away with it, whereas AAAs, they struggle with that kind of thing. Even the recent release of Wolfenstein: The New Order, which I consider to be a very good FPS indeed, one of the few games this year I've had the chance to play to completion, and I certainly did not regret doing so, was still saddled with the fact that it was a AAA game and it needed to give those Hollywood-like experiences. The opening is certainly very impressive, but also very scripted, lots of cutscenes, things like that. And occasional hand-holding, though. I'll give them credit, they did a pretty good job of letting you off the leash 95% of the time. So, well done to them for that. But, I miss my Duke Nukem 3Ds. I miss my Dooms, I miss my Hexens, I miss my Cyber Mage. Hey, you want to go back a little bit further? Yeah, have a look at that. I miss my Strife. I miss so many games from the old era of FPS where you were just plonked in a level and expected to explore it, maybe find keys to open doors, kill a bunch of people, get a bunch of new guns, and that really would be that. Plot really wasn't all that necessary. Unfortunately, Dark Raid is not the game that you were looking for if you were trying to find that old-school experience, even if it claims that it is. Beware of any FPS that uses the term old-school experience, because I find, in my experience, 9 out of 10 of those games do not understand what made old-school FPS good in the first place, and flat-out fail to deliver. Now, before I begin, I should remind people, of course, WTF Is a first impression series. It always has been. There are some games where my first impression is so bad that the footage will be from earlier in the game than I would otherwise usually like to record. I usually like to get a few hours in. Depends on the game. If it's a AAA game, I'm often doing maybe 6, sometimes 8 hours before I start. And those games are usually like 20 to 30 hours long, so it makes sense. With indie games, it can be a lot shorter, and it depends on the genre. With this game, alongside many of the other games which I've unfortunately panned horribly, and I don't enjoy doing that, by the way, as much as you might think I take some sick pleasure in it. No, I prefer good games. I prefer all games like this to be good. I like FPS, so yeah, you get the idea. This is not that far in. I'd maybe say it's about an hour at most. A lot of that was spent trying to find my way around the bloody starting area, which just is... oh man, it's the same room over and over again. It's just awful. Okay, let's have a look at the options menu. We can't play the multiplayer because there are no games going on, but I can show you a few things in regards to spelling on that menu. I'll tell you that for a fact. Not much going on here. VSync on or off. This is running in the Unreal 3 engine, and most Unreal 3 engine games are locked to 60. This is no exception to that. VSync on or off doesn't seem to make a difference there. Resolution only goes this high. If you're looking for 4K or any of the higher resolutions beyond this, if you happen to have, say, a monitor that can do 2560 by 1600 or anything like that, doesn't seem to be available. This is the main 16 by 10 resolution that I can find, but there does seem to be a limit. Now, I've set up my monitor so that I can actually do 4K, even though it's not a 4K monitor. My GPU basically does scaling. It's to get high-quality screenshots and also to play certain games with a nice amount of downsampling, but none of that seems to be available there. I confirmed that via the Steam forum. There are other people having the same problem. Assuming they can get the game to even load. Many can't even start it. Head to controls. This is what's available here. Default mouse sensitivity seems to be fine. There's controller options, also known as on or off. Like, I couldn't even tell you what the controls actually are for the game because they never bothered to tell you. And then you've got your keyboard and mouse. And these are the keys. There's really not much going on with this game at all, is there? No, not really. Doesn't even tell you which buttons to select for the next weapon, which is bizarre. I use my mouse wheel, but like, you'd surely be able to rebind that, right? I don't even know how many guns there are in this game, because usually you have a list here with all the hotkeys. It's not there. WASD, spacebar, crouch, sprint, use, and reload. That's it. That's all you got. Ugh. And then you've got your audio, subtitles, music and sound volume. Okay. So, multiplayer. Good luck. Do you want to join a quick Mac? There are numerous spelling mistakes in here. Not only that, but since this is a full release, this right here shouldn't be here. You don't get to pull that. You don't get to release your game and say, oh, well, it's actually just in beta. Make your mind up. This is a full release. It costs $20, actually, which is certainly overpriced for the quality of the game on display here. There is no beta. This is ridiculous. It's not in beta. It's just unfinished, and you decided to release it anyway, which is not okay. So, we have single player. Let's continue where I left off, and oh my, where I left off. Alright, so, welcome to Dark Raid. Hope you like red text, there's lots of that. You are a robot. For the first 20 minutes of the game, you go around performing menial tasks. It's about as fun as you might imagine. Go get this, go here. Navigating around the place is an absolute nightmare in and of itself, because the game has no objective markers and no map. I might be saying, oh, it's old school. Yeah, pretty much all old school FPS has had a map of some sort. As the best release of 2013 made clear, it does indeed help to have a map. So no map. No objective markers, no nothing. The only thing it did have going is the fact that some of the doors had a green indicator on them, which you'd think, oh, that means that that's the one I need to go through. No, there's actually multiple green doors, some of them are dead ends. So I spent the first 20 minutes of the game ambling around with no weapon, and nothing, in fact, whatsoever, just trying to find out where to go. It was completely a waste of time, I might add. It was a utterly pointless intro. Here's a little tip. You want to make an old school FPS? Start shooting early. That's what old school FPS did. They didn't have those big intros. They certainly didn't have a 20-minute period of you running around doing basic maintenance and nonsense like that and being interrupted by... There's only really two characters, at least so far. There was this one robot that got in the way of the door and then spoke for a full minute. Couldn't get past him. It was infuriating. I believe it was deliberately designed to make you hate that guy. Oh, it did, but it also made me hate the game. And that is perhaps not what they were looking for at all. As you might notice, there's a bit of random puzzle game stuff going on here. I'd love to tell you what exactly that did, but the game doesn't make that clear at all. So, you know, enjoy that. Enjoy guessing. It's very much Riven-esque. Press a button, something happens. What? Who the hell knows? Oh, man. Yeah, not particularly brilliant in that regard either. But yeah, first 20 minutes was a joke. And then we actually got to start shooting things. And that was with this pistol right here, which recharges. So, it fires pulses of energy. It's horribly inaccurate. Strangely enough, this gun, I mean, it makes it tries to make it look like it has recoil, but there really isn't too much of a recoil effect. There's no cone of fire or anything like that. It's wildly inaccurate here. If you aim down sights, well, they didn't bother to animate that, which is kind of a shame, because I've got to say, the gun model for the pistol is actually quite good. They obviously spent a lot of time on that. Reasonably high texture quality, pretty cool futuristic design. Well then, of course, if you look at the way the gun handles, it's a very artificial way of doing aim down sights, you know? I mean, not only is there no animation, it just basically lowers the field of view, zooms you in slightly, and gives you a little bit better aim. But the disparity between how this fires and then how it fires there is just kind of silly. Now, of course, then you've got this assault rifle, which kind of does the same thing, but this thing has no recoil of any sort. Like, it doesn't even try to pretend. There's actually no recoil in any guns so far as I can tell. Which is pretty poor. You can make the argument, of course, it's futuristic, there's no recoil in the future, blah, 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 but it definitely takes away from, one, the challenge of the shooting, and two, the satisfying nature that would otherwise be found in some of that shooting. Now, I'm gonna look out the window to try and figure out exactly what any of this did. Good luck. If you spot it, feel free to let me know, because I don't know what just happened, but something did. Press a button, something happens, so I assume we now have to get back down there, and that will most likely be assaulted by more robots. Indeed, I will. These guys actually seem to have assault rifles. Unfortunately, I don't have any ammo. This will sort that out quite nicely. There we go. Now, the assault rifles sound like they nicked the sound effects for the pulse rifle from Aliens. That doesn't surprise me. And the model, I think, is actually just it's a G36, isn't it? An HK, by the looks of it. They just put a giant LED ammo indicator on it, just to make it look a little bit more futuristic. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it is. There might even be like an EOTech sight on the top that they just jammed that LED screen into, so... Not particularly original looking design on the assault rifle, which is a shame. But of course, you know, these are little minor complaints. When we look at the description of the game, it describes it as a next generation experience, like next gen graphics with old school gameplay. Do you agree? I wouldn't. I mean, not only is the draw distance absolutely disgusting, I mean, is there any excuse for this? Look at it. You can barely see those crates over there. There's a ridiculous amount of purple fogging going on, which is the sort of thing that you remember from games like Jurassic Park Trespasser a very long time ago. So if that was its version of being old school, well, I thoroughly disagree with the way that it handled things. Now, there's going to be another spawn of robots coming in right here. But no, I mean, the game looks fairly hideous, honestly. Animation quality is very poor. As I said before, there's barely any feel of recoil on any of the weapons. You'll see how the enemies kind of run at you, just spamming energy bolts. Occasionally, they will try and get over one of the railings there and fail to do so, so they'll kind of bounce around, and let me guess, the water does damage to me, probably. You might notice I'm really low in health. Yup, absolutely. They really like to kill you in this game. They absolutely do. And you might think, well, that sounds like challenging old school gameplay. If by old school you mean barely has any checkpoints ever and has no quick save option of any description, then yup, it is old school. No doubt about that one. Now, I don't mind the fact that there isn't regenerating health. There's a decent amount of health pickups around the place, although I usually have to waste time trying to find them. And I don't want to go over there because that's electrified and will kill me instantly. The main problem is the distance between the checkpoints is ludicrous. Earlier on in the game, there's a sequence where you have to make your way through a corridor, which, in the very cliched fashion, has these alternating gouts of flame, which you must attempt to avoid. Now, the game doesn't make it immediately clear that you can actually fit kind of in between them. They look so close together that it would appear you'd have to just wait for one to go and then dash. But no, actually, you can't dash fast enough, so you will die. You've got to kind of slip only a few centimeters past where you need to be just to avoid the flames. And if you touch the flames, you die instantly. Now, what that does is it sends you back through another sequence where you have to look at another cutscene again, which can't be skipped, and then fight a bunch of enemies, pick up your weapon again, and then get back to it. It takes a good couple of minutes every time, which is absolutely infuriating. Why you wouldn't put a checkpoint before a sequence which you absolutely know is going to kill people a few times, because it's quite unpredictable as to how it turns out, I really do not know. It's extremely cruel, to say the least, and there are plenty of moments like that. I've died several times on that rush of robots that came through, maybe just because I didn't have the ammo, and I just got horribly murdered because so many of them just came down there. Now I assume I have to activate this one, which will hopefully power up the other switch, then go back down. There'll probably be another spawn of robots, and then maybe that will let me through. But the game is unnecessarily and unfairly difficult at times, and the distance between the checkpoints is absolutely ridiculous. There are save points that can be found on walls, but again, they're few and far between. I have only run into one so far, and then at the start of kind of the next chapter, which was this one, it gave me a save point as well. But everything I've done up to this point, if I die now, I can guarantee you that I'll have to go and do all of what I just did again. All of it. Which is ridiculous and completely unnecessary. I don't know what exactly they were thinking with that. I get the idea of making things difficult. Apparently that is the in thing these days. Hey, Dark Souls popularized it, but hey, Dark Souls is also fair. And there was a reason to play through that stuff again. There certainly is not here. That I can tell you for certain. Alright, so that is the third one. So I have no idea what's going to happen here. But, yeah, okay, thing is down. Now what? One would think there'd be a bridge that would raise up that would let me over here or something, but maybe up here? I have no idea. This is another thing the game's really bad at doing. Telling you where to go, or just giving you any kind of clue as to where to go. I don't need my hand held, but I would like a bit of a hint. So, I activated all three of these. Now what? I can't go through this water. I'm pretty sure it kills me. Oh, there's another button over here. Alright, there we go. Maybe an indicator of some sort of objective marker, or just, again, a map. You know, a map would be nice. I don't think it is unreasonable to ask for a map in a game like this, particularly when you're going through lots and lots of very great corridors that all look exactly the same. There, finally we have a save point after all of that. Yeah, it's kind of ludicrous how far we had to go in order to get there, isn't it? It's my third or fourth attempt at going through that. Yes, the game unfortunately falls into the trap of putting puzzles in, which serve really no other practical purpose other than to slow you down. Oh, and they do, because a lot of the puzzles don't really make a huge amount of sense. They have this whole, press a button somewhere else and something will happen vibe to it. There's nothing clever about them. Now, I gotta say, if I want an old-school FPS, there's a couple of things I expect. 1, satisfying gunplay. 2, exploration-based gameplay. 3, which ties into number 2, good level design. Does this game have any of those things? No. No, it doesn't. The gunplay is fairly horrendous. The guns have basically no recoil. The default pistol, the projectile fires so slowly that actually getting a hit with it can be a little bit tricky when you've got a lot of enemies coming at you and jerking around the place, which I'm okay with, but it's also not a very interesting weapon to use. It has unsatisfying sound assets, the recoil is completely fake, the gun is ridiculously inaccurate for really no apparent reason. Can I jump over this? I couldn't say. Is that... There's a health thing over there, so that indicates maybe that I can. No, die instantly. Alright. Yep, game's full of those. You want to go back to the checkpoint? Yeah, if you hadn't already guessed, this is definitely a foreign language game. It's actually made by Vector Games in Turkey. And strangely enough, when I went to the Steam reviews, the only couple of people that liked it were also Turkish, as it happened. So, I don't know if there's any astroturfing going on there, or maybe just a little bit of hometown solidarity. That's possible too, but this is... unfortunately not very well translated. And I could forgive that. I can forgive a lot of things, you know? When it comes to indie FPS, I don't really care about things like graphical fidelity. That's actually the least thing that concerns me. And occasionally there's actually a decent effect in this game. Like the first sequence of running through those gouts of flame was actually alright. You know, they had a nice mix of the orange and purple in there that was looking really good. Oh, there's a vent over to the side. Okay. There we go. Problem solved. Didn't see that as I came in. Because, as you can see, field of view are not actually wide enough to see it, yeah? Walk in. Do you see that vent? No, you don't. That's all. Very easy to miss. There we go. But, you know, things like those water effects, actually not too bad, yeah? Every now and again, there's a decent effect in this game, but the majority of it doesn't look very good. But again, I don't care about that stuff, really. What I want is a satisfying FPS experience. What really weirds me out is that we don't get indie FPS that actually try to go back to the way that the build engine or the way that those really old id Tech engines actually looked, you know? You can make something look like that. The graphic style of Doom is actually timeless. Whenever I see those mods that give polygon models to Doom, I say, you know what, it looked better in the first place with the sprites, because they were colorful, and they had their own individual style and aesthetic that stands the test of time. Like Sonic the Hedgehog, which is not an FPS game, thank God. Although, if they're going to ruin the franchise, that's probably the next place to go with it. Oh, really? Okay, fair enough. What was that? Is that another gun? What is that? I mean, that looked like another pistol. I was thinking maybe you could dual wield, but no. Oh, I guess it was just ammo for this, then. Interesting. Okay, blast door can't be opened. Stop the gas flow. Alright. Should be easy enough. Just follow these through. Bit of backtracking involved. Not the worst thing to ever happen. Here we go. But aesthetically, it's uninspired. It's very, very grey. Picking robots is never a really good idea as far as I'm concerned, because usually it means you can't be bothered to model humans. There's so far been one human in this game, not looked particularly good, as you might imagine, and then, you know, he dies really quickly, and then you're just fighting the same robots. There's only 2 enemies that I fought so far. Robot with energy blaster, and a trophy. Excellent, just what I always wanted. Robot with energy blaster, robot with assault rifle, and so far, enemy variety has not been brilliant at all. You know, you look at the first level of Doom, there's what, 3 different kinds of enemies, I believe? In the first level alone? That's the way to certainly go about things, but this game didn't do anything of the sort. Okay, I assume this is where I turn this off. There we go. Level design is poor. It is a corridor shooter. And not in a good way either, because there's not a lot of shooting. The actual amount of combat that goes on in this game is fairly low, which is a bit disappointing. I was hoping for more shooting, and there just isn't all that much of it. When they decide to throw enemies at you, they generally just throw a wave at you and hope that you can survive, and if you don't, you go back to the checkpoint and try again. But even if there was a lot of shooting, it's not like the shooting is inspired in the first place. So overall, the game unfortunately smacks of inexperience from the developers. They don't know what it takes to actually make a good first-person shooter. Maybe that's why a lot of indie devs don't make them, because actually it's a lot more complex to make a good one than you might think in the first place. But the setting in particular is just incredibly generic. Fighting robots is nowhere near as enjoyable as fighting actual creatures. And everything is subpar, whether it be the music, whether it be the sound assets, whether it be the way that the weapons handle, whether it be the animations of the main character. All of those are subpar, and it misses the point. It's got too many bloody cutscenes, the checkpoints are far too far apart, which means you're going to be repeating either scripted sequences or cutscenes time and time and time again. The voice acting, what little there blissfully is of it, is absolutely terrible. The story is about as generic as you can possibly imagine, with very little justification for what's going on. Something happened! There was an invasion.
Muddy, I have some news for you.
I'm listening, Lieutenant.
We researched to try to understand how you were able to resist the attack. We can only access a tiny bit of information right now, but we did find a few things.
What did you learn?
You're not just a regular maintenance robot, Muddy. You're a former soldier.
What? That's bullshit. I've been working as a maintenance robot for as long as I can recall.
It seems that you've worked on a military project, but it was classified and we can't access the details.
Well, then why can't I remember any of that?
I'm not sure, but it's my guess they reset you.
Reset? How come?
Yeah, I've heard of that before, that some of the more valuable robots that had been assigned to military projects were then reset and reassigned to another mission, but I just thought that was a rumor. Think of this as recycling.
Great. What a lovely day. First my colleagues try to kill me, and now I'm learning that I'm recycled waste.
No, Muddy, don't think like that. If they'd rather assign you to a new mission instead of melting you down, that means you're a valuable soldier.
At least that explains all the weird messages I've been getting in my head and how I managed to hack that door. I guess I still have some of the military skills.
Yeah, I guess your military systems protected you from the alien attack. Although they got control of the other military.
Oh god, will you please stop talking? It won't even let me through here until this nonsense finishes. There must be a way to skip this, surely. Guess not. Lovely. Yeah, can we just go through this? Thank you. Thank you. Bloody hell. That was certainly not worthwhile. Oh, and it reset all my weapons. Interesting. So you go to the next level, and it resets your weapons, so it's fine now. Obviously, they just gave me an assault rifle again, but... oh my. Well, that's good to know. And a cutscene! Great. That was pointless! That was utterly pointless! There was no reason for that to be there! At all! Ugh. Like, hey guys, we modeled the hands, we really want to show it off. He was very proud of it. Certainly a possibility. Jeez. Good lord. It really is not a very good first-person shooter. I don't think there's any real way around that. And the elephant in the room is a $20 price tag that shouldn't be there. There's no justification for the price tag on this game. No way. This is a very amateurish project. Put this out for $5 and some people may be willing to play it just for the cheesiness of it all. And cheesy it certainly is. But if that's the only aspect of old school that you've got going for you, then you've missed the point entirely. You know, old school shooters don't run around with things like aim down sight guns. They certainly don't bog you down with cutscene after cutscene. They're by no means story heavy at all. There isn't anything old school about this. The exploration is bare minimum. There's, aside from finding the trophies, there isn't really any reason to go through any other door than the one you're supposed to go through. Although this game is intent on confusing you by giving you no map or objective markers or indicators or even signs on the wall telling you where to go. I mean, hell, in the first area, you get signs pointing you to workshops. There's like 7 or 8 different signs that all point you to workshops, and every workshop looks identical. Oh, it's just kind of ludicrous. And jumping puzzles! Alright, fantastic. Wonder how far the checkpoint will send me back. Back to the start of the level! Brilliant! We get to see the cutscene again. Absolutely wonderful. Oh me, oh my, oh dear. This is not a good FPS. Not at all. It lacks all the basic elements required to make a good FPS. If even one of them was actually present, I might be willing to at least give it the benefit of the doubt. If it had good level design but crappy gunplay, it's like, alright, well at least you get to explore and find a bunch of hidden secrets and the level design is interesting and intriguing. But no, it's nothing but grey corridor after grey corridor and storage area and warehouse. And the occasional open area, which usually involves either a jumping puzzle or just obscure switch-based puzzle of some description. So that's not brilliant. Gunplay's terrible, as I pointed out earlier. It certainly does not look next-gen, whatever that even means on PC. That's meaningless on PC, by the way. Just want to point that out to anyone that's releasing PC-only games. Don't use the term next-gen. It means nothing. Absolutely nothing. The multiplayer is, of course, completely uninhabited, so if you're looking for that, then you're not going to get very far. The game is just dull and frustrating. And it's got plenty of both. Plenty of both. Stacked on top of each other. Big dollops of awful, I'm afraid. This is turbo jump? There we go. Okay, so it's a double jump. Ugh. That's a shame. That's a real disappointment. I just finished Wolfenstein, as I said. I would love to have played something else. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Instant death above the door. So whoever put that in had a really bad day. He got home, his wife had left him. For a horse. Like, you know, it wasn't even for a regular man. That's at least understandable. It's like, oh, she left me for that handsome man? Alright, well, I'm mad about it, but at least I understand it. No. The wife left for a horse. That's what happened. It was like, I don't even know why this happened. I have no explanation for it. And he is that damn angry. That damn angry that he decides to put that bit in the game. It's like, man, don't take it out on the rest of us. Deal with your marital strife elsewhere. Instant death trap. You gotta be kidding me. What a absolute farce. Yeah, Dark Raid is a waste of your time. I do not need to play further into the game to know that. This may not be a review, but I'm sorry, the first hour and a half or so of this title has left such a horrible taste in my mouth, I have no desire to go any further. And yes, first impressions definitely matter. It might get better, but would you really have the patience to go through it and see if that were the case? I should certainly hope not. You want a futuristic FPS that was made by an indie team that's actually competent? Try something like Hard Reset. Now that's a good FPS. This? No. This is horrendous. Absolutely bloody... Are you kidding me? Just... No! No! I'll see you next time.